Good evening, good evening, good evening, my sisters. How are you this Monday,
All
July?
right.
I am glad to see another Monday. And so, good evening to all of you who are out here in YouTube land who will join us tonight. This is the Woman to Woman show on the New You Nation Network, and we are here every Monday night at 8, not yep, every Monday night
8 o'clock.
p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so we are delighted to be back here again. We're going to get started with our topic tonight, which is embracing change. But first, we're going to introduce ourselves and do as we normally do, say what we are grateful for. So I am Theodora Carter. I am a certified life coach. I help women navigate the twists and turns in life so that they can live the life that they desire and deserve. And I am grateful I'm grateful to be here tonight. I'm grateful for this weekend where I got to spend some time with friends and family. And I'm just grateful for another Monday on this earth.
Hmm. Hi, I am Regina Booker. I am the owner of Season and Fabulous, where we help women see the greatness that they can be through um, just embracing their self and self love, self care, taking their power back, and being the greatest that they can be. And that's what I encourage women to do. And I am grateful for seeing my niece. My niece, I hadn't seen her over a year. She's at a conference. I'm so proud of her. And I got to see her. I hadn't seen her since last September. So her conference is here in Charlotte. So I got to spend quality time with her before her conference starts. So I'm grateful to see family.
Nice.
I am Sheila Isom, and I'm first off grateful to be here. I am an insurance claims professional, and I am also an independent consultant for Color Street, where I sell nail polish strips. And I am also a notary public. And kind of along the lines of what Regina just talked about, I am grateful for change and growth, kind of what we're going to be talking about tonight, because one of my nieces just, moved out on her own.
Oh,
So, I mean, she's gonna share an apartment with, some roommates, but she's out on her own. So kind of grateful because these are the moments as much as you hate to see them leave the nest. These are, this is what we prepared them for. So I'm grateful to be able to say I have a niece that is now on her own. My third niece that's out on her own is fourth actually.
well, how are her parents feeling about that?
Um, it's hard because my sister has two children and she's the oldest one. So, she's always called her ride or die. So
Mm.
now to know that, it's one thing getting used to her being away of college, but then she came home and now she's finally out on her own. So she's trying to deal with it. Thank goodness she has a granddaughter to keep her busy.
Yeah, oh, that's
Mhm.
good. That's good. That's good. So, tonight's topic is embracing change. And really and truly, as I was just thinking about it, one of the things that I thought about is like, why it's important to embrace change, to get the life that you want, right? And so for me, that's what I'm always, thinking about, right? Like changing your mindset, changing your attitude, thinking positively, right? And how that impacts, the life that you want to live. So for you ladies, as you have navigated, the twists and the turns and the things that happen, um, why has it been important to embrace change for you? Or what has helped you to embrace change?
I think one of the things that happens when, especially as you embark on your career. And it actually starts even before then. You know, once you get out of high school, whether you're going to college or you're going to vocational school to study a trade, you learn that you're starting to transition, right? Not only into adulthood, but into a different space. So that requires you to realize that things are changing, right? No, gone are the days where you were able to just sit out on the stoop, as they say, hanging out with your friends, and not worrying about any responsibilities other than cleaning your room or whatever chores that may have been assigned for you. It's not like mom or dad's going to wake you up in the morning. That's when you really start seeing that change is inevitable. And then you realize that in the workplace, you have your job, you think it's the job description that's handed to you when you first start. And then all of a sudden, a few months down the line, something happens and the company needs to make a shift that may require you to now go into a different position or take on additional tasks. So and one of the things that you tell me, because I'm in management, and it's just like, your flexibility is greatly appreciated, right? So you learn to adapt and change to your environment, right? And from there you realize, because it's almost like it's a constant. So it's something that's totally unavoidable. So you either get in on the train or you get left on the tracks.
It's so true, because I remember as you were talking about, your first job, I remember even back to going to college, right? Undergrad. And I remember one of my first classes hearing the instructor say, come to class, you come to class. You miss 3 classes. You like basically he was like, this is not high school. This is not junior high school.
Right.
Whether you come, whether you don't, right? I'm gonna get paid. And I'm not, and this is the expectation. You have 3 times to be late. You got this, and it was that first realization that, oh wow, right? Because you either can make one or two decisions. I'm gonna fly with all of this, flexibility and stuff that I have, right?
Yep.
Or I'm gonna keep in mind that although this man is saying he don't care what I do, that me not doing certain things may not turn out too good for me, right? Because they weren't like, oh, if you're absent, we calling your parents. It's like you 3 classes, we dropping you.
Absolutely. Yep. That's so true, because that happened to me.
Really?
I went to school, didn't, no responsibilities, no one woke me up. I looked out the window. Ooh, it's cold outside. I'm going back to sleep. I did my first semester and a little partying too. I came home, and for winter break, I came back, and my dad brought me back and went in my room, and I went to register. My dad was there with me. And I was like, my registration. I was like, nowhere. I'm like, where's my registration? You go. And so we went to an administration office and said, oh, she's on, what's it called? Academic probation.
Oh, wow.
Probation. I was like, what? My father was like, what do you mean? And I'm standing there like, back in those days, the computer was just, it was out, but it wasn't like it is today. My dad went in there because he was, he knew how to talk, and he was an executive. I didn't get any letter, and we truly did.
Yeah. And
they couldn't prove, and we didn't. It was a mishap on their half.
Yeah.
My dad chewed when I got rid of that door room. You better believe I straightened up. But truly, a lot of freshmen, when you go in, you don't know. You're away from home. I mean, it was my fault, but I knew that I didn't care. The next semester, I was.
But it's funny that you say that, right? Because you think about it, right? Like Sheila said, you have to be able to adapt, and you have to be able to be flexible. But when do you learn that skill, right? Because sometimes it happens because you have no choice. Because I mean, all of it, like I think we probably were better prepared than this generation.
Yeah.
But you think about it, it's like how do you even prepare for that? Your first job, your first time going to college, right? Having to be your first time really being an adult.
Well, you know what? My mom could prepare me for that. Like my first job, my first bank account, she sat me down, she taught me all of that. Now, being on my own, they did tell me all that, but when you're a wild kid, buck, you go, all that kind of goes out the window. But I was very responsible with my money, things like that. But that schooling, that's just something you learn. But you're right about where these kids today, they don't really have those type of things like the job. They'll walk off a job and he just, I don't care, I don't want to do it. So entitled, right?
You know what? That's
Whereas we stuck it out.
Yeah.
We stuck it out, and we sometimes I'm a little jealous of them because they like, I don't care.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and it's something to say to that, right? Because we grew up in an era where you stayed at a job, right? Like you stayed and you, no matter what
Maybe not
stayed, right? You didn't just,
all the way the right way, but they kind of stand up for themselves.
Yeah.
And that's the classic whiff 'em. What's in it for me? They have wholeheartedly embraced that concept more so than we have, because if they're not being fulfilled, they will make that leap. They have no problems changing if they feel that their professional needs and maybe even their social needs are not being met. Right. So, and it was funny because I think about it, just like you were saying, Thea, when you get that resume, one of the first things that catch your eye is how long they were at an employer's, right? Were there any gaps in employment? And if so, how long, right? How are they going to explain them away? And I can even remember, even as recently as last year, my boss and I were looking over a resume for a candidate that we were going to interview. And she said, this person seems to jump around jobs. And I had to remind my boss, that's the time that we're in now. And, because like you said, we got a job and we wanted to stay there. I don't think I can remember how the push was to get a job with the government. Get up to a G14 level or whatever it was, because our goal was to retire with a pension. Talk about change. Companies are no longer offering pensions, right? They're making you responsible for your retirement savings. So they've done away with that. And of course, there's some value to that, some economic value for the companies to do that now. But you look at the fact that the companies themselves are changing. So people are kind of patterning themselves after that. The company is looking out for the company. I have to look out for me.
Yeah. And it's funny because I would say, like you said, like being in HR, right? That's one of the things I had to get managers used to, right? Like, listen, it's a different time. So now it's like, you have to review the resume and you have to take into consideration that you might need to bring this person in despite all the jumpiness you see on their resume, unless it's really, really bad, right? Like if you somebody hit 2 months here, whatever. But now, if you do see some gap, you have to bring them in to have a conversation to get a feel for why they have made those changes or jump like that. The only thing I would say to anyone that is decides, because I really, like you said, I'm a little jealous, I'm a little envious sometimes. I'm like, wow, I wish I had that gumption to move and leave and pursue my dreams, right? The way they do. The only thing I would caution is the ones that they resign by email, or or they just don't come back.
Don't come back. Just
And I mean, and it's funny because I've had employees who they go on vacation, they use up all the, because I've worked places where you don't get paid out your vacation, and I've worked places where you get paid out your vacation. So the places where you don't get paid out, the people that they had it, they would schedule vacation, then come back, work like a week, and then they would resign, right? And all of that. So, but nowadays it's funny because they'll be like, oh, so and so didn't show up today, right? And then either you call and they'll be like, oh, I'm not coming back, I'm resigning. You're like, oh, okay, right? So it is funny that that embracing that change, right? And when is it good and when is it bad, right? Or it's because some change we have no control over.
Right.
And so how do you kind of adapt when you're not the one that has driven the change, or because the change that we make is different than the changes that we have no control over.
Right. Well, I think also it goes into, it's not just professionally, but it's also your personal life, right? That friend that you had for years who was your ride or die, and the one that you that held your closely guarded secrets, all of a sudden flips the script on you, and you have no idea why, right? So what do you do now? It's like, do I try to cling on to that person, or do I take that relationship for that season and realize that there are some things that I can take from that relationship and bring it into another one?
Yeah, I mean, because it takes time, right, for all of us, depending on what the change is, to recognize that.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's for our good.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and depending on the relationship and what you two have been through together, it can be painful. And I try to take it for the season, go through the pain and love them from afar, because I'm no longer going to beat myself up to figure out what I did. If you're not adult enough to come to me and say what you thought I did to you or what you felt, and we can't talk it out, then there's nothing I could do. So I just have to take that change and go on and love you from afar. Well, I still love you, but I don't know what I did to you. I'm not going to chase you around.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's,
I'm not going to beg,
Yeah, but some relationships are supposed to end, right? I mean, and I think that's the one thing that I, had to learn is their seasons, right? And so how do you embrace the seasons in like the weather, right? Some of us, like, it was hot yesterday, right?
Yeah.
So you're like,
it was hot.
Right? And so what do you do to adapt in that heat, right? So it's the same thing. It's kind of like there are these seasons that happen in life, and you have to figure out how to adapt. Is it easy? No. But I also think that I began to learn that change leads to growth.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Well, talk about that, to Theo. You were a New York girl. Right, so here you are in the Northeast, right, with the hustle and the bustle, and being able to get up and go anywhere at any hour,
Yeah.
right? Walk in just about any place you wanted to, depending on the safety of that area.
Yeah.
And now you are in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
So talk about embracing change, because it includes a location, which leads to a change in mindset and lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk to you.
Yeah, and it's true because, right, like, first of all, the change was made for a reason, right? I purposely made this change, right, for a lot of reasons, economic, right? Just starting to think forward about retirement and stuff like that. But it is true because I literally have had to get used to the fact that, yeah, I can't say when I lived in Jersey, there was a 24-hour ShopRite that if I wanted to hop in my car and go to the ShopRite, I could go to the ShopRite. Now I could hop in my car here and go somewhere, but there are not too many. Like, they might have a 24-hour CVS or someplace or whatever, but there's a lot of stuff down here closes like the supermarket, I think, closes like at 11. Most of them, right?
Yeah.
We're not used to that. There's there's no corner. Well, I do have a little corner store though, although I don't go in there because it's a little suspect. I'm not sure if it's sitting out there in the little country, but like you said, being able to just get up and walk, right? Like, for the most part, anywhere I go, and I have to hop in my car to get there. But I will say that it has been different, because I even was saying to someone, I haven't been on I said to my coworker, I said, I haven't been on the train, right? I think I might want to try the train. She said, well, it's not really a train. She's like, it's more like I guess, what do they call it? Regina, a light rail or whatever.
It's a light rail.
I was like, yeah, I said, yeah, I've been here almost 2 years, I haven't been on the train. And she was like, well, it's not a train. But I'm like, that's like, for me now, that's exciting, right? Like, at some point, I want to just take the train to Uptown, right? Just to experience it. So I think part of it for me is the newness of it, but also the reason that I made the change, right? It was calculated, but it was quick. Because remember, I moved in like 60 days.
Mm-hmm.
I like literally moved across, like, how many miles? 600 and something miles.
Yeah.
In 60 days. But it's been good though. Like, I kind of feel like I've adjusted, like. And it's funny because every move I made, like when I moved from the Bronx to New Jersey, I moved to Central Jersey and didn't really know anyone. I found out later, like, my cousin lived not far from me. I had been to his house, but didn't realize how close he was to me. But I moved to New Jersey and I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do out here? And then next thing you know, it was like I had been there forever, right? And so I think for me also, I tend to be able to adapt to different environments because I do kind of see the newness of things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you get homesick?
I do get home. So that's the one thing. I don't know that I don't miss like the snow and the weather, but I do miss because my core, my girls that I hang out with, they're all like in the Bronx, right? My god sisters, my family's still there. So like when people are celebrating different, because we all used to celebrate our birthdays together. So when I see them going out to celebrate their birthdays, right, and I'm not there, right, so that's when I get homesick. When I see like my family's doing something and I'm not there, because I do go back, but I don't go back like that. Like I'm not I can't go back for everything because then I would be living in New York and New Jersey again. But I
Right.
know that I do. That is the one thing that I get home, like I do get homesick for, is I miss spending time with my friends. But what's been cool is my like I have a group of friends that we're all in HR, right? Like we're all, you know, senior level type HR people, and we used to always get together in New York quarterly. We would alternate. And so one of the great things has been is that they've come down to visit me. Then we've gone to visit one of my other HR friends that's moved. So that's been pretty cool too, right? Because I find now too, a lot of people are coming to visit me that, are from up there. So because in my mind, I'm like, y'all coming to see me more than y'all did when I lived in New York. Right. So,
It's
but
the
I
change.
do, yeah, exactly. But
Yeah.
I do get homesick. But this weekend was pretty cool because I got to hang out with I do have family down here, and I have made friends, so I did get to hang out like this weekend with my siblings and had my neighbors over, and we hung out and do some stuff on the grill or whatever. But yeah, but that's another thing, right? How do you manage when you get homesick, right? And so what I've done since I've been down here, me and my god sisters, we've had Zoom calls, right?
Okay.
Um, I have a group chat with them, so we chat probably every day or every other day. Somebody's putting something in the chat, so there's other ways to stay connected, right? But also, I'm fortunate to have friends that we support one another.
Mm-hmm.
So it never make you feel, because you have some people that when you make a change, they make you feel like you done you done did something to them, like you slighted them, right?
Uh-huh.
Um,
Mhm.
and so it's nice to have people that have always supported the things that I have chosen to do, right?
So when I moved from Jersey to North Carolina, it's been a long. I moved in 2016. So I joined not GroupMe, Meetup.
Oh,
And I found things that I was interested in. And that's how I kind of met that is how I met my first core friends, if, per se, at a GroupMe.
mm-hmm.
And that was my first friends. And then I found just different activities that I wanted to join, and I met people like that,
Yeah,
and so
wow.
it was a different kind of thing for me to do because I walked around a lot, and I visited because I moved in the summer and I didn't
Mm.
have a job, and I just did a lot of looking and sightseeing and seeing the city, and did a lot of ooh and ah. So around October, I said, okay, you gotta get serious. I gotta do something. So I was kind of by myself, and but I did meet a guy friend that ended up being a very good friend of mine. Unfortunately, and he passed away. He had the same birthday as me, but I met him in Maryland at the Capitol Jazz Fest, and I told him I was moving to Charlotte, and he told me, if you ever, if you when you move, look me up, and I did, and he became like my big brother, even though he was older than me. He took me under his wing, and he introduced me to his group of people, and we had a lot of fun. But they were they kind of accepted me. The guys did, but the girls was kind of like, because they had this whole kind of like sisterly, brotherly thing going on, and they, two of the girls were really accepting of me, but you kind of just feel like they were nice, but so, but I just kind of did my own thing. He still would invite me to stuff. So since he passed, they have this thing called, now I hope I get it right. It's from South Carolina. It's from Charleston. Lowell County, no, Low Country something, some
Mhm.
type of food thing. So he did this uh, it was for back to school. So he sponsored it every year, um, and that was his thing. So he brought me into. He said when he came, he said she's part of us now, and they were all from Charleston. So I got it. I got it while they were all close. Here I am. They call us a Yankee. Here come a Yankee down here and put them
Yeah.
in the circle, you know. So I got how, I didn't know nothing about it. And they all were from like kind of that Charleston thing. And so here I don't know nothing about it. But that's just how he was. He was like that. And he was the greatest guy. Like at his going home service, it was so many people there. He was just that much loved. He was a great guy. So I say that to say he started this whole thing, and in his base he gave backpacks to the kids for back to school. So this is the first year they're having it. So I support it, and I'm going to it. But it's some kind of it's a cookout thing they have, but they have like red rice, a lot of stuff that I'm not familiar with. They introduced me to this type of food, like gully type food.
Mm.
If I'm saying it right. I
Yes.
met them. I met them. That group. But I wanted to meet my own because they were nice to me when I was around the guys and the girls, but I wanted to be around both. So I said, let me just find my own kind
Right.
of people, So that's how I met my own friends, and from
Yeah.
there, I started working, and I met
Oh,
people.
met more people.
Mhm. But
Sheila,
it
have
was,
you ever? I'm sorry,
you know,
Adina.
well, I said, but the change, but it was change, just the the southern from the north living in the different, some of the things they did, which is it was just different.
Uh,
It just was different.
it's funny because I don't like. I was saying recently. I was like, everybody there. I was joking around on Instagram the other day, and I was like, people are like, "Oh, do you like it down here?" And I was like, "What would happen if I said no?
Yeah.
Like what would they say? Would they give me advice? What would they do, right?" But yeah, I don't know. And maybe that's the another thing, right? Outside of missing my family, like my aunt, I definitely have to find a way to come back. My aunt will be 100 in November.
Mhm.
Oh, wow.
So I was saying to my cousin, if they do something for her, I'm definitely gonna go up. But even if they don't, I kind of feel like she's gonna be 100,
Mhm.
right?
Mm. Mm.
So
You get a
yeah,
letter from the president. Don't they send a letter from the White House? I
do that.
think. I mean,
Yeah,
you might have to request it, but I think you get a letter from the White House or something.
Oh, how do you find that? How do they find out?
I don't know. My cousin told me this one time because she told me. I don't know if it's true. I can Google it and see if it's true.
So let's talk about the positive benefits from to embracing change, because I always find something on the internet,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So one of the things they say is embracing change drives growth in all areas of your life.
Mhm.
Have you
Yep.
experienced that?
I have. I have. Um, I find that when change happens, that I do grow in areas. It 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 widens my horizon, if you want to say. Like I'm open. The more I change, the more I'm open to new things. If that,
Mm,
a more acceptance to even other people's opinions or like just in general. Um,
mm,
I find that true
Mm.
with me.
wow.
Well, I am a born and bred Jersey girl, right? Northern Jersey. And, when I grew up in a time where you did everything with your family, you did everything on the block. We went on vacation together. We went to North Carolina because that's where my parents were born and raised. So, that was the extent of it. We didn't go spending the night over at anybody's house. Our parents knew where we were. And if they didn't, you got in trouble when you got home. So for me, one of the things that I had made a decision to do was to go away out of state for school, right? Because I wanted to experience the diversity. And it was difficult for me because, again, we had never been away from home. I had only spent right up until I left freshman year, I had only spent the night away from home once. One time. And I mean, we didn't even spend the night over a relative's house, right? So, but I needed to learn about diversity. I needed to learn about other people. I needed to learn about another area, right? So that was the beauty of it, is that now you go to the school, and I went to the University of Pittsburgh, and you have people who not only are from Pennsylvania, right, Pittsburgh, that are there, but people from Philadelphia, from Harrisburg, and they're all different. And then you bring in the people, the New York and New Jersey people, and then you bring in those from West Virginia and Ohio and surrounding areas, and then you might have some people that have come in from the South, right? So that was that immersion into different people, right? When you're in a totally different environment, helped you to adapt, because for me, that was my way of preparing myself for the professional world, right? Because I said, I don't know, I'm going to meet all kinds of people from all walks of life. I need to start embracing that now and get out of the little bubble that I was in from my town in New Jersey.
And it's funny because one of the things here, right? It says embracing change lets you learn new things and fail. All right. And so that sounds like exactly what you just described, Sheila, like just that whole exposure to new things. Another thing it says is embracing change helps you be adaptable and flexible.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. My growing up, my parents allowed us to spend the night out. Like, we got to spend the night at our friend's house, and our friends got to spend the night at our house. And matter of fact, I took my first plane ride by myself at 6 years old.
Wow.
I flew to see my aunt, and I spent the summer in St. Louis. And my grandmother had a fit to my dad, like, wow, why would you let my baby get on a plane by herself? She didn't like it.
Wow.
But those are the type of things. So I grew up like that, and all of us. And we took trips. We was part of a travel club. And we went everywhere. My mom took us, and it was one of the ladies in the neighborhood, and she would plan it every year, and throughout the year we would go different places. We would go just everywhere. This is where we were going. We would go see plays. We would go and that's how we grew up. And I remember taking one of my girlfriends, and she had never been out of the state. She had never been anywhere, and she was so excited to go see a play. And that was normal to me. It was not normal to her.
And so do you feel like that really shaped or made it easier for you to adapt?
It made it easier for me. Because then I went to school in California. So, living in California, you did everything. So I got to do things that I never did before. I went sailing, didn't know how to swim, and really, like, silly and dumb. I think about it, God had me, because I got on this sail, and I was around a lot of girlfriends that I worked with, and one of the girls' boyfriend had a sailboat. We all got on it, and none of us had life jackets. I was like, how stupid was that?
But one of
About it.
it says embracing change, guts to do more,
Yeah.
right? And
So
so
I did. Sometimes I think about it's like we got on that life. I mean, we weren't doing anything crazy, but we should at least had life jackets on again. But we had fun. We were out there at night. We did that, and I did so much stuff. That's why I was telling you guys. I think like when we first started, I did a lot of things in my early like 20s to 30s. So I did so much, and then as a child, my parents just they let us see the world. And my mom, one of her things was, I want each of my children to live in a different state. She used to
Mm.
say that to us. And funny enough, we don't. We're a close family, but we don't be around each other. So it's easy, and we don't live around each other.
but how so is that why it was so easy for you like to just move to go to school in California and then to move from New Jersey to
Mhm. It's
North
so easy.
Carolina?
Yeah, and I adapt by myself. Well, maybe that's why.
Yeah.
It probably is because, and then even when we lived in, we never lived in a state with our relatives. We always had to travel.
Mm.
Mm.
So our cousins, we always had to travel to
Wow.
Yeah,
And
that's interesting.
that's
That is
yeah.
really.
them.
But it is because you wonder like how has like the just the different exposure and which it probably has been easier for you than most people
Hmm.
to like adapt to, which is why even now when changes are happening in your life, you it's like it hits you, but then it's like you bounce right back.
Um, the financial change sometimes is difficult,
Mhm.
but you're right. It doesn't like
It
I
doesn't
do think that,
paralyze you,
yeah, it doesn't paralyze me.
right? Because some people get paralyzed
Hmm.
by by change.
It's just like it stuns me for a minute, and then okay, okay, I got to come up with a game plan. So it's just like,
Mm.
and that's
Right.
how I.
Teaches you to be more resourceful.
Hmm. And that's one of the things one of my friends, one of my high school's friends said, "You've always been a survivor." I'm like, "What do you mean?" It's like you just always, even through my marriage that broke up. And she reminded me, she's one of our friends, which was really her best friend. She says, her parents died and she inherited the house. And she said that all she's done is just taking seconds out on that house that should have been paid for. And look at you, meaning me, your husband, you lost your husband, you raised two boys by yourself, just all the different things are going on. And she goes, and I look at her and she's just doing nothing, like, doing nothing, kind of really just kind of on the system or collecting money and
Mhm.
just doing nothing. And, you know, kind of things are given to her per
Mm.
se. And you don't make use, like you were given a house. And instead of making more, you're turning it into getting seconds and things out on it and not like just nothing.
But one of the things like this, like it says here, right, is embracing change exposes your strengths.
Hmm.
Because it's possible that for some people, right, you know, the change may expose their strengths, whereas other people, right, I would imagine they may not bounce back as quickly from change. And so how they adapt and the choices they make, right, um, kind of show up differently,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, that's true.
You know, but let's talk about the biggest generational change that especially we've had to make.
Mm-hmm.
Social media.
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
talk about adapting, right?
Mhm.
I mean, I sit there and think about how, we weren't too far off from things that our parents did, right? So, they
Mhm.
taught us to type in high school. So,
Mhm.
when the word processor came back, and I'm dating myself for a lot of people that are going to see this or that may be watching right now, right? But the word processor was like one of the greatest inventions. However, it was just an extension of a typewriter, so it just moved a little quicker, so it allowed you to output things a lot easier, right?
Mhm.
Um, the uproar of Y2K,
Oh my goodness.
Oh my
right?
God.
The world is gonna end.
And then they come up with this thing called the internet.
Mhm.
What are we supposed to do with that?
Mhm.
And you know what's so crazy is like Facebook, right? I remember when Facebook came out, right? I was like, I will not join. I will this. And I don't remember what made me join, but I set up an account, but I was like, what do they call them when you first, like, what do they call the people that don't interact? You just you just be looking at people, right?
The voyeurs.
Yeah. But I will say, but then I embraced it because I connected
Mhm.
with, so I connected with one of my friends from junior high school, like one of my besties. Like we would hang out, we would do all kind of stuff, dress like all that. And the last time I had saw her was at her wedding, right? And we connected on Facebook, ended up meeting for dinner, and just picked right back up where we left off.
Yeah.
And so from then, I was kind of like hooked on like Facebook. But for me, social media, the people that are my friends for the most part is I've interacted with you at somewhere in my life. Like I don't just
Mhm.
I'm not one of those people that because you're a friend of this person, I'm gonna be your friend. Like I
Right.
can't do that. But yeah, it's interesting because even as you said that, I thought to myself, I'm here on my iMac, right? And then I have my work computer here. I got my iPad here, my phone here. I'm like, why are all of these devices around? Right? And like Google is like, I mean, for me, I don't know about other people. Google is like my lifeline. But you think about it, I even said to somebody, what did we do when we didn't have phones? Have you ever left? I remember being in New York, talking about New York, right? Where I would leave my house, get down to the bus station and be like, oh my God, I left my phone. Right. And
And go back.
Turn around and go
turn
back.
around and go. Right. And heaven forbid you get to work and realize like you're already on a, you're like, what do you do for the whole day? Right. I remember one day trying to get in touch with my god sister. And I'm like, why did she respond back? And then later she was like, oh, she had forgot her phone at home. Right. And in my mind, I'm thinking like, before we had these cell phones, if I didn't get in touch with her, I wouldn't be like, oh my God, why did she get it back to me? I would just been like, I'll catch up with her later, right? But it's just so crazy that you say that because
Yeah. And
social
that
media
actually,
really has been a change that we had to adapt to.
Yeah, and it just it gets you to talking about I mean the gossip and the
Oh no,
stuff.
I can't do all of that. I'm like,
Yeah,
ugh.
the things that's on it. But what I have gotten addicted to is those talk like I like the little cooking shows that be on Facebook. So I like to watch those. So now that's kind of like my uh
So
what
you
is it
watch them
called?
on what? On
Facebook.
oh,
yeah, they have a little.
They have the what are the content creators. So I'm like addicted to it. I'm just like, oh, what they gonna do today? Let me. And it's not anything that I really would eat, but I have to say I get good tips from them.
hmm.
Yeah.
Like some of the things that they say, I'm like, oh, I never thought about doing something this way. So I like it. But what I get mad about now, They put ads in it, but that's how they make their money.
That's how they make their money,
You
right?
get to a point, I'm like, oh, here come another ad. I'm like, golly,
That
you know.
interrupt-
Look at how we got to know to be mad at it, right? Like,
I'm like, really?
Well, it's funny. Here's one of the things what social media has done for us. My husband and I, we're foodies, right?
Mhm.
But we have come to realize that our love language is food through social media, because throughout the day we're sending each other messages of different
Really?
recipes,
Oh
different
wow!
restaurants. So that's what we do, thanks to
Mhm.
social media.
Mhm.
So he gets his cooking ideas from that. And if we wanted to go out someplace, now we're going to try this new spot, or we're going to keep it
Mhm.
on our list. But that's our love language throughout the
Mhm.
day.
but I do think that that's a great thing, right? Because when you think about change, what would we have done? Imagine like COVID was, oh my God, it was horrible, right?
Mhm.
But imagine the impact it would have had if so many companies weren't able to adapt to letting people work at home, right? Or
Mhm.
you weren't able to like stay connected with family and friends via Zoom or social media. And
Right.
so it does make you think about the benefit, like this article that I was reading, right? If we think about the benefits of change, it makes it so much easier to embrace it.
Right.
Right. Mhm.
And so it all comes back to, right, my what I love to talk about is mindset, right?
Mm-hmm.
How you position things in your mind, how you think about things in your mind, because that helps you embrace the change. A lot, because a lot of people, like you said earlier, right, with Gina, and you said, Sheila, right, it's not easy to always embrace change, but when you look at it from what's the good side of it, what's the benefit of it, it helps
Mhm.
you to easily embrace it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Yep.
And I think with time to it becomes easier. The more change that happens in your life, the easier it becomes for you to really embrace it.
And it gets back to what we talk about often, is worrying about those things that are within the sphere of your control,
Yes.
right?
Right.
So again, change is inevitable. You may not like it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to happen. And a lot of times it is not within your control. Again, getting back to that job, it's like your job description is A through G, and then all of a sudden they skip the whole middle of the alphabet, and now they done added X, Y, and Z. And you're just like, and after a while, what you realize is that this is what's going to happen. I either have to accept it and learn from it, right? Because it might make me more marketable,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mhm.
Or it's going to lead to me possibly getting some accolades
Yep.
with my present employer, right?
Mhm.
Or I'm going to quickly learn that some things just aren't for me. So
Right.
you can add these things on. I don't have the bandwidth to do those things. That's
Mm.
just not within my wheelhouse. So either we have to come up with a different way to do things, or we need to find a different person to do it.
Mm.
Mhm.
And it's funny because I just did that today. I said, um, I need you to assign this to somebody else.
But that's good. That's good.
Because
Because sometimes we take on too much, and it's okay to say.
But I
Some-
had to grow into that, right? Because
Mhm.
me and my girlfriend talk about it all the time. My work ethic and other things made me
Mhm.
feel like, oh, I gotta, just say yes, yes, yes. But I think that's the great thing about change and evolving,
Mhm.
right? Because
Mhm.
it helps you to evolve as a person. And I really have learned how to set healthy boundaries,
Mhm.
right?
Right. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
But we are coming up on the hour. The time always goes so
It
quickly.
sure does when we start getting into it.
Yeah. And so I guess it's time for final words, right? So I'm just going to share something I found, which says four ways to embrace change, right? And so one thing it says, be courageous and live without regrets, right? Two is find a community of supporters that we have right here. Three, continually open your mind to new things and experiences. Regina, you talked about that. And the
Mm-hmm.
fourth thing was stick with it and persevere. So for all of you that are listening, it may not be easy. It may take some time, but here are four things you can think about to help you embrace change. Be courageous and live without regret. Find a community of supporters. Continually open your mind to new things and experiences. Stick with it and persevere. Because a lot you will look at, that's the other thing about social media, Sheila, because we look at people on social media and it makes us think that life is rosy and things are so easy. But
Mm-hmm.
right, a lot of stuff that you see people doing, it did not happen overnight. Everybody is not an
Right.
overnight success. And that's what I have.
Well, I'm going to say that as cliche as it is, yes, change is inevitable. All right. So don't allow yourself to get stuck, to be in a rut. Take it as change is often going to lead to something good that you will discover, that someone may discover in you. So look at the positives behind change and go with it.
Nice. I like that.
Uh, I'm going to say that, change is inevitable. It's always going to be change. Just embrace it. Um, don't get stressed about it. Do the best that you can in it. Talk to someone if you need help with it. Like, don't get stuck. Reach out. There's community, your friends, your family to help you through it.
I mean, ultimately, as we all have experienced, for some changes that have been changes we've directed, and some changes that we have had no control over.
Mhm.
But with each and every change, right, we've evolved because we were able to adapt
Mhm.
and we were able to be flexible. But most of all, we were able to recognize that for me, right, the Romans 8:28, all things happen for the good of those who love the Lord, right? And so,
Right.
I mean, I think that's key. So I would also say, right, you're looking at three people, and then of the others that are normally here, because I would say even for those who are missing tonight, we all have had to kind of shift gears at some
Mhm.
Mhm.
point, and it wasn't at our own doing, but because we are able to support and embrace one another, but also because we know that we either could do one or two things: stay stuck, or we can
Mhm.
figure out how to move through the change and adapt and roll with it. And so, as Sheila would say, just don't get stuck. And so it is 9:03, and we want to say thank you for joining us tonight. As always, we came on thinking, what are we going to say? 9 o'clock and said, is it 9 o'clock already?
Yeah.
But we look forward to you joining us back here. We are here every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the New You Nation Network Woman to Woman show. So please join us again next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we are going to end as we normally do, which is saying truth plus transparency
Transparency
equals
Equals
healing.
Have a good night, everyone. Thank you for
Night,
joining
Good
us.
everyone.
night. Good night, all.
Good night.